Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to go through all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of July. Let's get straight to it. Okay, so we start this month with a cracking good movie here with Abigail, a new film that's come out. This one sees like this group of kind of like criminals, kind of like heist specialists, and they're hired to kidnap this young girl and keep her at this house while they await the ransom money of this wealthy guy. So they get her there and they are to spend 24 hours in this house with this girl, but not as all as it seems. And this girl, she looks kind of like sweet and innocent, but she's actually like a vampire. Not giving too much away, it's revealed sort of quite early on in the film. This is a really great film, really enjoyed this, very well done. It's made by the same people who did Ready or Not, and you can kind of tell it's got the same vibes. Could even take place in the same house. It looks very similar. But what I really like about this as well is it's kind of got like a From Dusk Till Dawn twist, whereas it pans out at first like a bit of a kidnapping crime movie, but then just on a dime changes and we get this like vampire horror film. Really good. Great characters. Dan Stevens is in this, one of my favourite actors, and they sort of go from these kind of hardened criminals to having to fight back against this really powerful, scary vampire girl. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was a great modern horror film. Could definitely recommend Abigail. Yeah, this one was great. Next up from Kino, I picked up Back from the Dead. This one looks really interesting. It's one from the 50s. Of this woman that I think is a spirit brought back to life through like dark arts or something, and looks like a real kind of creepy little black and white 50s movie. I'm waiting until I get like a bit of a dark night to put this on because it looks really cool and kind of eerie. So yeah, heard good things about it. So yeah, I'll check this one out soon. Yeah, this one's Back from the Dead. Next up, and crazily a first time watch for me, is Cube from 1997. Never got around to watching this one until now, but I did enjoy it. This one's a bit like a precursor to the Saw movies. These strangers wake up in this mysterious room, looks a bit like a Hellraiser Lament configuration box like, and they have to get through the various rooms, working out puzzles and avoiding these traps to try and get out of the place. And well, a bit more of a sort of thinking man's movie, this one. You got a sort of, there's a few sort of riddles and equations that they have to work out and things like that. But it's, yeah, I enjoyed it. The characters in it are pretty good. And there's a couple of surprisingly gruesome deaths in this as well, which I didn't see coming. So yeah, I did enjoy Cube. It was good to finally get round to watching this one. Next up we have The Curse of Humpty Dumpty, which I originally watched on a streaming service with my dad, and I actually thought this would be terrible, but I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this. This was a really good film. This is a British film about this family. It's this mother and two daughters. The mother's suffering from kind of dementia. She's got onset dementia, and they go back to an old family country home, and she's trying to like sort of recount her past. But there's this creepy Humpty Dumpty doll that is there that she picked up a while back that's got a mind of its own and starts killing people off. But it's really good. I've heard a few good reviews about this one, which is nice to see that other people have picked this one up and enjoyed it. And it's a very quaint British film, I have to say. It's just got a nice feel about it, which is a strange thing to say about a killer doll movie. But just the aesthetics of this are very kind of British countryside and things like that. Plus the doll in this is super creepy. It's a good kind of character in that sense. So yeah, The Curse of Humpty Dumpty, don't be put off by that sort of, I don't know, silly-ish title. I did enjoy this one a lot. So yeah, if you like your killer doll movies, maybe give this one a try. Next up, I picked up Deer Camp 86. Not had a chance to watch this one yet, but it looks like it's going to be a fun one. An 80s style slasher film, from what I can tell. So yeah, I'll get this one on soon and check it out. But if you've seen this one, let me know what you thought. Next up from Anchor Bay, I picked up Demon Hunter. This was just a cheap one off eBay, but I wanted to get it because it was old school Anchor Bay. And this was okay. This is Sean Patrick Flannery. He's aforementioned demon hunter, going around sort of killing off these monsters and things, and then there's like a top bad guy demon played by Billy Drago who's after him. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. I liked it for kind of the early 2000s feel. It's got a great kind of like new metal soundtrack, and it feels like it's trying to do like a bit of a Blade kind of movie. Nowhere near as good, but again, I enjoyed it for the approach that it took. There's some cool moments in it, some cool looking characters, and things like that. So yeah, not too bad for a cheap film. I enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, from Unearthed Films, I picked up The Guyver. Oh my goodness, how have I never seen this film until now? This was just insanely good. It is incredible. I enjoyed every minute of The Guyver from the early 90s, and it is packed with just practical rubber-suited monsters. Just an absolute delight to watch. Within like 2 minutes of this film starting, there's these like two giant fish monsters fighting each other. Oh my goodness, it's like, yeah, just monster movie heaven right here with The Guyver. It's so good. Mark Hamill's in it. He's great. He plays like a really kind of gritty character that I've not really seen Mark Hamill play, but he was fantastic. The practical effects in this were amazing. David Gale was in it. Jeffrey Combs pops up in this as a Dr. East, which I'm sure is a nod to Dr. West. And oh my goodness, this is just such a fun film. I don't know if you put this movie off for some reason, like I have, definitely give it a watch. I did not realise it had such awesome like monster movie moments in it. I'm so excited I can't even describe it properly. But The Guyver was so cool. It was so awesome. Just practical monsters running around everywhere. It was great. Next up from Warner Brothers is another kind of fun creature feature film here with The Hidden. These two cops are on the trail of a number of murders going on in the city, but they're being perpetrated by different random people who have got like no record of violence or anything like that, and they can't quite work out what's going on. And it kind of emerges that it's like an alien that takes over people's bodies and then goes around killing people. And so the police find themselves on this trail. So pretty cool kind of sort of buddy cop movie. But then this film also throws in some great like creature practical effects as the alien, whenever like it transitions from one body to the other. And it's kind of fun seeing these sort of like unlikely characters running around killing people and firing machine guns randomly and things like that. So I thought The Hidden was a fun kind of 80s creature feature cop movie. Pretty good. Alright, next up we've got a really good one here. Another old school Anchor Bay with Hitchhike. This one sees it's Franco Nero and Connie Clary. They're a married couple driving through the desert, and they pick up a stranded hitchhiker played by David Hess, who is pretty much a continuation of his psychotic murderer character from Last House on the Left. And at first he looks like an innocent stranded motorist, but as soon as they get him in the car, it starts to get more sinister, and they realise he's a psychopath on the run that's got this suitcase full of money. Really interesting character dynamic in this one, and gets a bit intense. There's a few deaths along the way. But what's really interesting about Hitchhike is the David Hess character. He's this really unlikable psychopath, but Franco Nero in this is like just equally a scumbag as well. So you really don't know who to root for, and they play off each other really well. So very good movie. Very some exciting moments in it. Tense, keeps you guessing, keeps you hooked. So had a good time watching Hitchhike. This was a really good one. Next up, I picked up a fantastic horror comedy here with I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle. The title of this one is pretty much the synopsis, so I don't really know how else to describe it. But Neil Morrissey, he gets this motorbike which runs on blood and goes around attacking and killing people. But this one obviously not to be taken seriously. It's got a lot of funny moments in it. I always thought it was an 80s film, but it's 1990, so it is a 90s film. But this has got some really kind of funny nods to sort of Thatcher-esque Britain and things like that. There's one bit where a guy's gone missing and this old lady's sort of like, well, maybe he's off watching a video nasty. Which I thought that made me smile. That was great. But yeah, some really sharp dialogue in this, some great kind of British humour, a bit of blood here and there, and just sort of this ridiculous kind of antagonistic thing with the vampire motorcycle. So yeah, had a lot of fun with this one. Thank you to Darren from Destiny Ranch for sending me this. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Next up, I picked up Infinity Pool, which I've not had a chance to watch yet. Looks interesting, although I don't know too much about it. I know it's Brandon Cronenberg that's directed it. He doesn't have the biggest hits with me. I think some of his previous movies were okay, but more than willing to give this one a try and see what it's like. He certainly delivers in a number of ways. So yeah, I'm kind of like holding off and not looking too much into this one, and I'll give it a watch soon. But feel free to let me know what you thought about it if you have seen Infinity Pool. Next up from Kino, I picked up Link, which I've never seen. It's supposed to be a really good sort of killer chimpanzee movie with Elizabeth Shue and Terence Stamp. But yeah, for whatever reason, I've never got around to watching it. So I will check this one out soon. Like I say, heard mostly really good things about this one, so I'm looking forward to it. Next up, I picked up Matinee and had lots of fun watching this one. This was such an enjoyable film. This one sees John Goodman. He's like a horror producer, and it's kind of about him. He's set up a cinema in this town, and just like all the ways that he's trying to make money and make a profit from these like 50s horror movies. But it's set against kind of the real life concerns of the Cold War from that time period, which I thought was very interesting because kind of politics and uncertainty has often shaped the horror genre. And so it was interesting to see those two things come together in a movie. And the movie in question that John Goodman plays within the film Matinee was just fantastic. It's half man, half ant in a film called Mant, which is just genius. Like I would absolutely have watched a feature length called that was about that. And you get to see quite a lot of the movie within the movie, this black and white horror film about a giant ant monster man. So that was really cool to see that. And it's just got a really good sort of early 90s feel, but set in the 1950s, which is one of my favourite time periods for horror and creature features anyway. So yeah, another film which for some reason has taken me a long time to get round to, but thoroughly enjoyed Matinee. Another great one from Joe Dante right here. Next up from Arrow, I picked up Mute Witness. This is a recent release from them. I think the film's from 1995. This was okay. It's kind of like a taut thriller. This woman's working on a film set, and after hours she sees an actress or somebody like brutally murdered for real. But the problem is she gets away, but the problem is she can't speak. She's mute. So she's sort of stuck with what she's seen. And the perpetrators are sort of coming after her and chasing her around this warehouse where the movie's being made. It was okay. I didn't think it was great. It had some tense moments, had some scary moments. The murder itself was pretty sinister. I don't know whether I just wasn't in the mood for this one at the time. I don't know. Didn't think it was terrible, but just sort of I thought it was passable really. But nice release from Arrow. It comes with the slip cover and the reversible artwork and things like that. So yeah, if you like kind of 90s thrillers, might get something from this one. Next up from Kino, I picked up The Mystery of Edwin Drood. Really excited to check this one out. This is a brooding gothic Victorian horror story from Charles Dickens. Really want to watch this one. The problem is, it sounds a bit silly, but kind of the evenings at the moment here in the UK, we're having like blistering sunshine until like 10 PM at night. And I want to wait till I get like a cold, dark winter's night to watch this one, because I think it'd be more fitting. It's really annoying having like the sun blaring in until like you go to bed. So yeah, I will check this one out. I don't want to watch it in a really bright sunshiny evening. I just think that will take away from the film. But this one just sounds like a fantastic one to watch if you like your more kind of vintage gothic kind of moody horror films. So yeah, I'll definitely be checking this one out soon when the weather kind of gets a bit darker. Next up, I picked up Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. So Onyx is like a YouTube personality. He's got like a really big channel. I watch him every now and again, find him quite entertaining. He's a kooky little character, makes me laugh. But he managed to make a movie. He made his own movie, which I thought was fantastic. So I thought I'd pick it up and support him. And to give him credit, it's a really good film actually. In this one, he like gets the chance to go to this mansion with a few other guests to invoke some demonic presence or something. The guy who's running it all, who owns the mansion, is played by Jeffrey Combs. So great to see him in the movie. And it all goes a bit wrong, and there's some murders and some creatures and zombies here and there. But it's just a fun movie. Very much has like kind of an 80s feel to it, a bit like a Goosebumps feel to it as well. Very sort of like kind of colourful and creative and all kind of things going on. But there's some really good, like the zombies in this kind of look like they're straight from an 80s movie, which I liked. And there's some humour in it, some great looking creatures. So yeah, this Onyx guy, he's done a great job. To say he did this movie himself, I don't think he had like any kind of big studio backing or anything. So yeah, really impressive to see what he did. So yeah, cool movie. Next up from Criterion, I picked up Peeping Tom, another first time watch for me, another one that's I've not got around to seeing until now. They're kind of like now considered a classic movie. It sort of drew a lot of repulsion and disgust when it was first released in 1960. So now I did watch this one, and I was very much kind of expecting like a true classic, you know, like a misunderstood classic that you know, unfairly flopped back in the day. I've got to say, it was okay. It didn't hit me like I was hoping it would. I was kind of thinking it would be up there with sort of Psycho and those sort of early 1960s horror films. I don't know if it's because I just didn't see it back in the day, but I thought it was okay, but nothing more. And surprisingly, I could kind of see why this one was kind of like met with such unfavourable reviews. It is a pretty kind of grimy movie, still to this day. It's got moments in this which are kind of even more sort of like grimier and nastier than some of the 70s films, and this is like 1960. So yeah, this must have hit hard back when it first came out. So I did enjoy it. I thought it was shot really well. Great performance in this from everyone involved. Some of the kills in it are pretty kind of sinister and yeah, it's pretty scary and unsettling at times. But yeah, it just didn't resonate with me as maybe I'd hoped, unfortunately. But I know this is regarded as a classic now, and it's definitely a pioneering horror film in what it does and the way it lays itself out. Very, very unique for the time and very daring, which I give director Michael Powell a lot of credit for. Unfortunately, it did ruin his career. Great to get it in the collection anyway. It's kind of one of the few last classic horror films I think that I don't own. So yeah, really happy to pick it up. But yeah, interesting film. It didn't captivate me like I'd hoped, unfortunately. Next up from Scream Factory, I picked up Saturday the 14th, the horror spoof. This one sees this family, they inherit this creepy old house and there's all kind of silly things going on in there. I really liked it for the monster in the bathtub. That's absolutely my kind of creature. So yeah, he made me smile when I watched this. There's some other sort of few funny things in this one. Horror spoofs can be very hit and miss for me. And indeed, this one had some moments that I thought were really funny, but some moments that weren't so much and went over my head. But definitely like the creatures and the practical effects side of this were enjoyable to watch. Look out for Jeffrey Tambor as well, who pops up as a vampire in this, which was cool to see. So yeah, Saturday the 14th may not have aged all that well, but it's still a relatively entertaining horror spoof. So yeah, I did enjoy it. Next up, I picked up Stop Motion. This one looks like an interesting one. Freaky looking cover on this. So yeah, I'll give this one a watch soon and see what it's like. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. But yeah, this is definitely one that caught my attention. And yeah, one that I'll be watching soon. Next up, I picked up The Stranger. I don't know anything about this one. I just saw it cheap. I think it's produced by Eli Roth or something. So I thought I'll give it a try. Not a chance to watch it yet, but I'll check this one out soon and see what it's like. Next up, I picked up Thanks Killing, the thoroughly silly one about a killer turkey going around killing people. It's all kind of practical effects, which is kind of cool. The turkey himself just goes like from one victim to the other, kind of very like foul mouth and just killing people off in a variety of silly and ridiculous ways. So I enjoyed it for what it was. It's got a very kind of like frat boy feel to it. But if you want to have like real just kind of no brain entertainment and want a bit of a laugh, yeah, maybe check this one out. It's one that's obviously not to be taken seriously, but yeah, it's got a bit of charm as just being this like no budget crappy little film about a killer turkey. So yeah, it's I enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, I picked up the 4K release of Underworld, which is also known as Transmutations, a much cooler title, in my opinion. This one's not bad. It's a British film about a guy. He's assigned to find this other guy's daughter, and she's been kidnapped in this sort of murky underground world. And she's been kidnapped by a doctor, played by Denholm Elliott, who's got this like weird street drug that turns people into kind of deformed creatures. And they get sort of hooked on this drug, and Denholm Elliott's trying to find a cure for it. So not bad. I bought it mainly for the cast. It's sort of like who's in it? Denholm Elliott, as I said, Larry Lamb, Stephen Burkoff, Ingrid Pitts is in this. So a real kind of eclectic British cast thrown into this one. It's got Clive Barker's name on it. He, I guess he wrote it or had something to do with it. But it's not, don't expect too much. It's not kind of like the heights of Hellraiser or Candyman, that kind of thing. In fact, the 4K release, it looks good, but it kind of shines up some of the cheapness on this one. And there were times it even looked a bit shot on video, if I'm being honest with you. But it's got an interesting story, and the creature effects in this are pretty good. So yeah, not bad. And I'd not come across this movie before, so it was interesting to check it out. But yeah, not Clive Barker's best work, but it was okay. Next up from Warner Brothers, I picked up The Valley of Gwangi, a really awesome classic monster movie. Some of Ray Harryhausen's best work in this one is like these cowboys in the desert, and they find this Valley of Gwangi, and there's all these dinosaur creatures lurking around in there, and one of them they capture and bring back to town to sort of show off as like an attraction, but it all goes wrong. But yeah, as I say, the effects in this one are incredible. Just like the cowboys fighting with the monsters and doing the thing with the rope and getting them, and then monsters fighting other monsters. Really, really good stuff. And James Franciscus is in this as well. He's really cool, so he played a good part as the main guy. I just really didn't like the ending of Valley of Gwangi. It was a pretty downbeat ending, and it kind of made me sort of hate everyone who was involved in the movie, because it was, yeah, just unnecessary what happened in the final scene, if for anyone that's seen it. But other than that, yeah, this was a really cool kind of like Sunday afternoon old-fashioned monster movie with, like I say, some incredible effects from Ray Harryhausen. Next up, I picked up Verotica. It's kind of like a horror anthology. Cool cover, but I gotta say this one was truly terrible. Really, really awful. Some of the worst acting and line delivery that I've seen in a movie. Almost like the people were confused. Like they're on set and not quite sure what was happening. I don't know. It translates really badly to screen. Most of the actual movie I've kind of forgot already. There's about 4 or 5 segments, none of which are particularly interesting at all. As I say, the only thing I do remember is just the awful acting in this one. I've even seen some reviews of this movie that have likened it to Tommy Wiseau's The Room. It's not quite that level of ineptitude, but it is really bad. So yeah, not one that I would recommend, unfortunately. And last up for this update, I picked up the latest VHS anthology, VHS 85. It was okay. It had some good moments, but I am noticing the quality of these VHS anthologies dropping significantly. I thought the first two were absolutely brilliant. I enjoyed the third one, and since then they have been getting kind of worse and worse. And I like the first segment in this one, these teenagers being hunted at this late. But after that, I didn't care much for it. Some of the segments were really boring and uneventful. Some went in kind of weird directions, but yeah, none of them were all that grabbing. Unfortunately, it's a shame because I started this franchise just, as I say, thinking those first two movies were incredible, but they don't seem to have the same impact now. They did capture the look and feel of the 1980s really well. I'll give them that. And I'll say there were a couple of moments in it, but on the whole, I was not all that entertained watching this one, unfortunately. So that's everything that I've got in the month of July. As always, guys, let me know what you think of those pickups. Any that you particularly like, any that you dislike, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.